it's me, Hannah. Hey. Okay. Um, hmm. Let me see if I can improve the lighting a little bit. Alright, I'll be right back. Cable lamp. Ah, just kidding, just kidding. Table lamps don't work that way. Sheesh. Much better. Much better. Definitely much better. Glasses. So nice and clear. Okay, so I made this list of things that I wanted to talk about in this video over a week ago. And I have been trying to come up with a nice human-style introduction to this video since then. And yeah, well, human-style introductions isn't among my strongest of suites. Maybe one day, when I actually become human, I'd be able to easily give human-style introductions. But for now, I'm still secretly a robot. But I think it's worth a try, because if I didn't try to talk like a human, then how could I expect others to see me as a human when I become human, right? Right. Perhaps similar logic can apply to a transgender in transition. What say ye?
Gosh, man, I'm so easily tempted. Just had my arms resting like this, trying to edit the video for a few minutes, and now I have a giant tent. Yeah. I'll probably go away in a few minutes. So, yep. And I'm hungry. I'm feeling really, really hungry. It's just yeah. If anybody's wondering, why I'm so skinny, I think it's the energy consumption up here. It's insane, I know, but it's kind of like having a turbocharged Boxer 12 under the hood. It's just insane, but also quite satisfying. Yep. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go grab something to eat first. Then I'll be right back. Oh, by the way, that's a giant Boxer 12, not a tiny Boxer 12. A giant Boxer 12 engine. Yep, turbocharged. Yeah.
Okay, now it's time for my attempt at a humanly style introduction to this video. Don't expect much because I'm still secretly a robot. I'm basing this video on my own personal experiences. Yours might be different from mine, and your circumstances might be different from mine, and everybody's unique, and that's cool. Yep. So one of the things that I want to mention here is transitioning can be tough, especially for those of us who are transitioning well into our adult years. So in my case, I began my hormone replacement therapy under the care of my very dear and extremely knowledgeable and warm and understanding and just simply amazing hormone specialist. after I had turned 40 years of age. Yep. And many of you, I'm sure, already know that there is no cure to transgenderism other than to actually complete the transitioning into one's true gender. Yep. I like to look at transgenderism as a natural part of life. It's as natural as hair graying, or some frogs, they change from one gender to another during like some part during the course of their lifetimes. It's just natural, it's the way they were created. I know human beings are not frogs, but the point I'm trying to make here is some human beings need to transition, some human beings don't need to transition. But regardless, there's no reason for anybody to discriminate or ridicule or treat horribly someone who happens to be a transgender. Yep. Okay, so from a transgender's perspective, we have challenges of our own, some relating to society and some relating to our own internal battles. Yep. But regardless of whether or not we can expect the society to change in a positive direction, we can improve our own setups within ourselves, our own mental structures, and each of our own approaches towards society.
Okay, so let's see. I've got quite a few items on the list here, but I think I can ignore part of the list because I may have gotten a little bit sidetracked while writing the list, and the thought process kind of went a little emotional, and so I think up to number 8 is valid. Yep.
So, all right. Time for the list. Okay, so time for the list. Well, I didn't do so bad with my humanly style introduction. Not bad for a robot. First item on the list is don't compare. I'm sure you've done it, whether we're cisgender or transgender. I'm sure we've all done it at some point in our lifetimes. We've compared ourselves to others. Yep. The problem with that is, here's the problem. There's nothing wrong with comparing. It's a human tendency. It's quite human about it, okay? The problem happens when we lose touch with our own awareness, or I should say, awareness of our own progress. So, for example, I'm going to use kind of like an exaggerated example. Okay, a male to female transgender. A male to female transgender who's a professional engineer, for example, transitions, and during the course of her transitioning, she had a chance to examine her life and improve from herself from the inside out. And upon completing her transitioning, she had become this beautiful person, just not just on the outside, but solidly built person, a logical, solid, dependable, just a beautiful example of a human being. And she's still a professional engineer, and but she's now this beautiful, solid engineer, right? Beautiful, solid human being and an engineer. Okay, or I should say beautiful, solid human being at an engineering level. All right, so professional, beautiful, solid human being. Now, would it make sense for this beautiful, solid, professional human being to compare herself to a cisgender, like a young woman in her junior college days? Would it make sense? No, of course not, because she's a professional grade and she's already built herself into this solid, beautiful, professional, great person. And why would she want to go backwards into a junior college level, right? Right. So I know I'm not comparing similar levels, but I'm trying to make a point here how ridiculous comparing ourselves to others can be. Yep. Yeah, same with cars, we buy a car. It's best to buy a car that makes sense for us than to just keep comparing the car we have to someone else's car, and that could be a can of worms, basically. It's like it's yeah, we don't want to do that. So yep. Okay, let's move on to the second item on the list. I have 8 items on the list. Okay, so the second item on the list is don't fall into stereotypes. Yep. Stereotypes can be awful things. Stereotypes can lead us down a path of misinformation and can cause things like preconception. Stereotypes are not good for the person being stereotyped, and it is not good for the person doing the stereotyping either. For example, getting into porn, starring transgender porn stars, might skew the perceptions of the person watching into thinking that all transgenders are that way, even if the transgender is not in the pornographic industry. And then a real life check happens when one day the person may be in a situation that involves working with a transgender, and because of the misinformation and or the preconceptions from watching porn, the person may find him or herself unable to function in that situation. Okay, so the third item on the list is don't lock yourself inside hearsay. I'm sure you've heard of the saying, we make our own reality. Well, that kind of holds true for HRT and transitioning as well. Everybody's unique and everybody's unique. There's so much going on in each of our own respective bodies that are taking part in causing the bodies to look the way they do. So, like, seeing someone talk on YouTube, for example, about her broad shoulders as a man, not narrowing up as a woman, doesn't necessarily mean that your own broad shoulders wouldn't narrow up as a woman. Yep. In my case, I had broad shoulders, and now, as we can see, my shoulders are chick shoulders. Yep. So I'm going to show you one of my old guy shirts. Okay, so one of my old guy shirts. Yep. Huge. I'm going to put it on. This has been a little secret fantasy of mine to put on like my old guy clothes as a woman. Okay, I'm going to show you the picture of me wearing the same shirt when I was a guy. But you might ask me, but Hannah, what if my shoulders didn't narrow? Well, big deal. I've met so many women with broad shoulders. There's nothing wrong with having broad shoulders as a woman. Yep. Number 4 on the list is don't lose focus on the end goal. Yep. I guess I could reword it a little bit. Basically, what it's trying to say here is don't get distracted. For example, speaking from my own personal experiences, during my first couple of years of HRT, if I were to get distracted and had gone out and gotten a breast augmentation job done, then that might have likely cost me extra time in reaching my end goal. Of course, there can be more than one end goal. Breast augmentation can be its own end goal, and that end goal can be crossed off upon reaching it. Talking about end goals, it's important to establish clear and well-defined end goals. Yep. Number 5 on the list is don't forget the reason for transitioning in the first place. So every transgender is different. Just because you're a male to female transgender doesn't necessarily mean that your reason for transitioning would be the same as my reason for transitioning. So, yep, everybody's different, everybody's unique, circumstances, etc., etc. Yep, so, yeah, don't forget the reason for transitioning in the first place. That also, like the end goal, it would be wise to keep that clearly defined. The 6th item on the list is don't lose touch with real life, reality, real world. For example, end goal, starting position, and during transitioning, the current position, right? Ideally approaches the end goal, and upon reaching the end goal, mission successful. For example, a male to female transgender starting out in a male-looking appearance and ending up entering in a female-looking appearance range. If the person loses touch with reality and continues to think that the appearance is still male-looking, then if the person at that point decides to opt for a facial feminization surgery, then the person's already like lost touch with reality, right? So at that point, what's the end goal of the surgery? I mean, if the person's already lost touch with reality, then no amount of surgery is likely to convince the person that the person's looking like a woman after the surgery, right? Right. So it's really, really important not to lose touch with real life, reality, real world. I think it's important to mention here that I'm not talking about situations where the person's well informed, well in touch with real life, reality, and real world, and for example, well aware of the fact that the appearance is already looking in the women's range, but in need of a necessary surgical procedure. For example, a giant bump on the nose, to do a touch-up on it. For example, to do a touch-up on a masculine, giant square-looking jawbone. For example, to repair a cleft lip. I'm not talking about those scenarios. I'm talking about scenarios where the person has lost touch with real life and still thinking that the appearance is looking like a man, although in reality the appearance is already looking like a woman. Yep, that kind of scenario. Yep. Almost there. The seventh item on the list, 5, 6, 7, yeah. So the seventh item on the list is don't live to please others. For example, if the transgender person's got a boyfriend, the male to female transgender person has got a boyfriend, and a boyfriend wants the transgender person to get larger breasts, well, the transgender person shouldn't get larger breasts just to please the boyfriend. Another example is gender transitioning. Don't transition just to please someone. Yep. Important stuff. I mean, if we ourselves want larger breasts, then there's nothing wrong with opting for a breast augmentation procedure, or to go for larger breasts if we ourselves want to transition. Then there's nothing wrong with gender transitioning as long as we are holding ourselves fully accountable for our decisions, for our own decisions to do the things that we're doing. Yep. Item. Yay, we made it. The 8th item on the list. 6, 7, 8. The eighth item on the list is don't dwell in feeling self-conscious. Having self-awareness is fine, but feeling self-conscious can lead to assumptions about others, including negative assumptions that can negatively impact our own positive feelings and mindsets. Yep. So basically, stay positive. I'm hoping this video has been informational to you in a helpful and positive manner. I'd be curious to know your thoughts, comments, suggestions in the comments section below. But please be gentle. Oh, it's healed. Laters.